Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to the virtual book club. It's the book club you can attend even if you didn't read the book. Virtual book club started in October of 2020 during the global pandemic. I'm Benita Lee, and I'm joined by different guests all over the world. Today is just North America to discuss books, connect with others, and share thoughts and tell stories. Join us. Don't forget to say hi. Tell us where you're tuning in from. With me today, I have Robert Barry, that audit guy. I've got Hal Garin and Leslie Neidig. Oh, I thought I
Women to
would.
the left, men to the right. That's the way my screen is.
Yeah, here, I'll switch that up for us.
Oh, now I'm all confused.
Now that's just
I
confusing.
know. Any minute now, I'm going to start hearing a beeping noise.
No, it stopped right on
I'm
time.
still hearing it.
I know, me too. A fire testing went on today, and it was still going on just to the very start of the live. So we are reading Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss with Tal Raz. And I don't know, we're pretty excited about this book and what it means for, um, you know, uh, the negotiation field and what we learned in the past from getting to yes.
So does that mean don't split the dinner bill when we go out to eat?
Offer to pay a ridiculously low portion of it and then negotiate from there.
I'll just pay for my drink.
But how many drinks is that really though?
Yeah, because I guess, in the guy is a former FBI hostage negotiator. So, I mean, he can't be like, I'll just take two of your hostages and you can keep two. Like, that doesn't work in real life.
Not at all.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, one thing I liked about the book is it, even though the title sounds like it was all or nothing, right? Never split the difference. It really wasn't all or nothing. It was more so like an instruction manual to get inside someone's head and bring out their inner feelings so that they feel more connected with you, so that you could get them to lower their guard, thereby getting what you want by lowering someone else's guard.
And is it that? Is it so? And those who know, I didn't read this book. I've always been a supporter, essentially, of getting the yes. It's something I read several times. I use it in a course I teach at NYU. I also have included on my recommended reading list. And the main reason was the mindset. It wasn't that there was instructions in there. In fact, without my course, they didn't know how to like implement what was in the book. But I thought what this person wrote, to kind of distinguish very simply the difference between the two books, Getting the Yes is really guiding a mindset shift that people might not have. And we can get into this interests and positions, because for me, that's been the key of me being a better negotiator. And then Never Split the Difference is really giving you the practical ways of like how to deal with it, how to read people, and getting the yes sticks with much more theory and kind of academic thinking.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I read Getting to Yes, but if I were to, I agree with everything you just said there, Leslie. If I were to make a distinction, to me, Getting to Yes is really more about from a sales perspective and getting the other party to buy. And it may not be a product, it may be an idea, a concept, anything you want to try and get across to someone. You want to get them to yes as the answer. So it's more about selling something. And to me, when you got, a hostage negotiator, they're not trying to get a sale. They're not getting to yes. They want to get the situation resolved with the least damage to life, limb, and property. And so it is more about getting to what you need the outcome to be, and how you go about doing that. And some of the concepts in Getting the Yes might not work in those types of situations. Now, hostage situations are obviously going to be the extreme that none of us would ever face in our lives, or on our fortunately boring lives. But the concepts about let me put it a different way, because I'm rambling. The salesperson at the car dealership that wants to sell you a car might use tactics in getting to yes. You, as the buyer, are going to use tactics in this book, because starting with you can we can talk about some of the details, starting with no questions. Well, do you really want me to leave today with this? Do you really want me to leave here without buying this car today? No. And then you get them talking and you get them negotiating, and low ball with a ridiculously low offer, and some of the things that he talks about in the book.
So one of the big things that got me was, one of the big concepts was, how do I say, negotiation kind of begins with listening. And that was one of the big concepts in the book. But what struck me as very interesting is oftentimes you're taught to listen so that now you have all the information so that you can either formulate your attack or your counterattack, a la Sun Tzu, The Art of War, right?
Sure.
But here it was almost as if the listening was done so that you could now respond with some sort of empathy. And that was a brain switch to me. And I was like, oh, this makes sense, because it's almost like truly Sun Tzu, The Art of War, because you don't even know you're at war, or the other party doesn't know they're at war. Whereas if you're very overt and you're gathering information and then you immediately attack, then you put the other person on the defense. But that was one concept that was quite interesting to me, and I'm curious to know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd agree completely.
Yes.
It's the old concept of putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yes.
Really understanding what their motivations are. We can talk about the hostage situations because obviously they're his primary, not all of his examples, but his primary examples, because that's his frame of reference to make his points. But in most cases, not in all, in most cases, the person who has taken hostages, has seized control of the bank in an armed takeover, they don't want to die. They want to get out. Now that they've got themselves in a situation, they want to get themselves out of that situation. But if you just make a series of assumptions, you're probably wrong, because you haven't listened to understand what their real wants are. And it's not necessarily the $1 million and the getaway vehicle and, the flight to, not Hawaii right now, but the flight to somewhere.
Sure.
So Yeah, Vern caught that one totally out of context. What
That's
Hal's
That's
talking and I don't understand what he's saying again.
Yeah, well, and it was really interesting because I think he actually, what did he call? He called it tactical empathy in
Yes.
the book.
yes.
And when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, that's genius."
Me too.
And I think though the where the similarity is with Getting a Yes, if we ignore the title, because that was never my focus, like the Getting the Yes, it's this idea of interest versus positions. And that's actually why I've used this book, because most people, they learn to negotiate, like, go in, ask for more than you really want, never reveal what you really want, because then they're going to take advantage of you. So the mindset in the Getting the Yes, as well as something that Voss agrees with, is that if you can get to interests, which are not always something that people are consciously thinking about, like what led them to that position, what's really underneath it, and maybe if we satisfy what's underneath, the position is irrelevant, because a lot of times it's just what they're presenting versus what they really want. And that is such an important concept with people who are going to continue to work together. And that's why it's part of my workplace, like, conflict management course, because you're likely going to continue to work with the person. So you have to figure out how to meet each of your needs, even though your original positions seem so disagreeable.
Yeah, most of the people that you're negotiating with, air quotes around negotiating on a day-to-day basis, are people that you're going to want to keep a relationship with.
Yes.
It's not, a one-time transaction and it's over. And with those people, you have to employ tactics of empathy and listening and understanding what their true position is, and not trying to get everything you want necessarily out
Exactly.
of the negotiation.
Yeah, when I compare the two books, I really like this one. This one is like modernized for me, and practical, right? Just like Leslie said.
I started listening to the book,
Okay.
and there's something about what made listening to the book so much more interesting, and I haven't read it, but just listened to it, is the inflection that you hear from the person who is actually doing the reading. And I'm really happy to say I've met Chris Voss. He
Oh,
was a member of City Club during my early years there. And he was speaking when he was, just moving things forward with what he was doing. And so he's really, and I've seen him on CNN and so forth and so on. So he's really a dynamic speaker, and he's just an all around smart guy. The whole idea about negotiating, the way he brings in the negotiation tactics that he used with the FBI, I thought was really interesting, and how we all have to negotiate, whether you're talking about negotiating with a child to go to bed early, whether you're talking about negotiating for an increase in your pay from your job. You can't get away from negotiation. It's something that you really want to have a firm grip on. So, like I said, I've only heard maybe the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes of it. And I recall the being a tactical empath, that whole psychology behind it, his late night DJ voice, that kind of
does the narrator use it?
calms people, and
Does the narrator use the voice?
yeah, Yeah, to some
Wow.
degree, when the time where he wants to really show you what it sounds like, he will change up and go into the slower, deeper, late night FM DJ voice. uh, you laugh, I laugh, but it works.
Yeah.
It does. It actually works. And I found that, women find that to be interesting too. So I made a mental note of that. I'm like, okay, I'll hold on to that thought. But it's whatever it's going to take to get inside the head of the person that you're negotiating with. And you want to calm them down. You don't want to antagonize them. You want to, find out, what is it that you really want? I thought what he was saying about, how am I going to, we want $1 million. How am I going to do that? And he kept asking those kinds of questions, and it made the person who was making the demands have to kind of like sit back. When he first went to the FBI and was going through the training, we've got your son and we want $1 million for your son, and we're going to kill him. And so, he started thinking on his feet, and well, how am I going to do that? And all along, he's buying himself time to figure out what he's going to do. But it's that ability to ask good questions, which I have always been a proponent of. You ask good questions, you get good answers. You ask lousy questions, and you'll get those same kind of answers. So throwing people off with the, how am I going to do that? And they've got to stop what they're doing and think about, well, what am I asking this person to do, and how are they going to get me what it is that I want? And that disrupts their thinking. And that's one way to approach it, just to
It
kind of
gets
throw
them
them off.
unstuck. Like they kind of get, otherwise they're just like stuck on this, like, this is it. I need my $1 million and there's no other option. Now we're
Yeah.
like exercising their brain to think more like, oh, wow, how would he get that? Oh, it's Sunday. There are no banks open. Okay. You know what? Maybe I don't need $1 million. You know what I want today? I
Yeah.
want whatever. And all of a sudden you find out alternatives because they can't, we're showing care for their, like, okay, I'm going to get you $1 million, but how am I going to get it?
Yeah, it's going to take me some time to do that, though. The banks are blah, 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 and he's steadily buying time to figure out what he's going to do. But that whole idea of disrupting the thinking of the
Yes.
person that you're negotiating with, and the request is reasonable. You're asking a question. How do you expect me to get that? And they got to, and they got to start thinking now about how you're going to get that, or how you can help them help you get what you want. And that throws
Isn't
it
that
off.
showing? Isn't that showing the respect? Like you used the word help. Like, I need your help.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. You're equalizing. Like you're
exactly.
sharing the
Which I
power.
thought was good. That I thought was really good. It evens the playing field, and it's less antagonistic, which I thought was really good. So yeah, I'm into it.
Good.
Well, the other thing that got me was the whole concept of don't feel somebody else's pain, label it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're used to telling people, I can feel your pain. And I think that causes some people to be offended because they're like, no, you can't.
Right.
And so I like the concept of labeling it, because when you label it, it's almost like you're playing a guessing game with them. You're telling them what you think, and they can either agree or disagree, because he said something like it starts with like, what did he say? Let me look at my notes. It feels like you're saying this, or it sounds like you're saying that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think when you say that, you lower the other person's guard, because you're not saying you're stupid. You're saying it sounds like you're stupid. No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But no, you're not telling them, well, it sounds like I mean, you're not saying you seem to be hurt. You're very hurt by this. You're saying to them, it sounds like you might be hurt. And so you give them the opportunity to, again, talk, which goes back to the first principle of listening. So now you say one statement and you be quiet, and then they just talk and tell you what they really think. That was impactful to me. I really like that.
It is, and it works.
Adding to that, I think you also have to, you need to get the other person talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just the act of listening, because then you're not only asking them questions to get them to talk and labeling their feelings and all that kind of stuff, but you're listening for clues as they're talking and starting to piece together what their real issues, real motivations are, their real wants are. And you can ask reflecting questions like you're saying, Rob. What it sounds like is that, things like that. You get them talking.
And when you ask it, like, oh, it sounds like you're upset. Did I get that right? And then like they feel empowered. Oh, you really care. No, you know what? Upset isn't really the word that describes it. I was frustrated or whatever. But then you start to learn more and say, oh, you were frustrated. Tell me more about how you were feeling in that moment.
It was interesting, I think, when he talked about there were 5 people who were listening to the conversation. He says, do we really need 5 people to listen to this conversation? And his point was, yeah, we do. Because you can only hear through some of your preconceived notions about what you think is going on. And to have other people listening, they're going to hear something entirely different. So yeah, the FBI says we need 5 people who are listening to this conversation so we can get different inputs from those 5 people so that we get a much better idea about what this person is saying and what they're going through mentally and emotionally. And I'm like, because we can only listen, we think we can listen. Well, not everybody is even a good active listener.
So think about the intelligence and the situational awareness someone has to have to do what he has done successfully. You don't get too many chances to do it unsuccessfully and continue to do it.
No.
Right. You can't have bad outcomes and still be doing that job.
True.
But the stress, how you park the stress. I mean, think about negotiating with someone who's taken armed control of a bank, has people as hostages and is threatening to kill them, and you're the person on point trying to negotiate with them. Regardless of how well versed you are in what's worked for you in the past and the playbook, the intelligence, the thinking on the feet, the situational awareness to try to make sure that a bad situation doesn't get worse. I'm in awe of that, for someone to be able to do that and do that well.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes in a situation, like he was talking about the crisis situation in the 27th floor in Harlem, where they couldn't see. All they could do was, talk to the people through the door. And they got them, he came in and he was able to convince them to come on out. And they asked him why. He said, because you sounded as though you really were listening to us. And that really is all somebody, most of us want. We want to be heard.
And you weren't going away.
Yeah, they knew that.
I have a little excerpt from that chapter.
Oh, go ahead, read it.
As negotiators, we use empathy because it works. Empathy is why 3 fugitives came out after 6 hours of my late night DJ voice. It's what helped me succeed at what Sun Tzu called the supreme art of war, to subdue the enemy without fighting. I mean, that's a win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So you said something about like the 5 people listening. I could tell you not with the same kind of circumstances, but that's why a lot of times like co-mediation and co-arbitration models really work well, but leave everyone satisfied, because it's amazing when 2 or 3 people are sitting next to each other and they hear completely
Different.
different things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and it helps to hear that, like, oh wow, I didn't hear that at all. What are you talking about? Because we're just attuned to like our biases, our priorities, even though we think we're neutral and we're really listening, we only hear parts of it.
It's
So that's an incredibly important in that kind and in those situations when lives are at stake.
the
Yeah, you
ability
want
to
to have
hear.
some others listening.
It's women, allow me to be sexist for a moment.
Uh-oh.
Women
Hear it.
perceive more information in conversations than men. Straight out. You know, I can remember when I was I'd be in meetings with my wife, and then we'd have a meeting after the meeting, and she would tell me all that she saw and all that she heard, and I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. And I know we were in the same meeting, but she heard so much more than I did, and plus she was able to cue in on their body language.
Yep.
And women are just that much more perceptive when it comes down to things like, because they have to be. I've learned that women have to be more attuned to nonverbal communication than men. So that tells you about when it comes down to listening and active listening, we think we're good at listening. Why? Because I'm not talking. Does that necessarily mean that I'm listening? Not necessarily. My mind could be any number of different places. So you really have to develop that skill of listening. And you develop that skill of listening by generally being somebody who speaks less and listens more. And that's a skill, because we always want to make sure that people are hearing what we got to say and what we think and how intelligent we think we are and so forth. When, you know, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, do the math. Should be listening twice as much as you're speaking.
So I do remember, and I guess maybe it does confirm female male thing, but I know that's just a generality. It's not universal. But at one point in my career, I did some work where I worked for the courts, and it was called a court evaluator. And I was always selected by the judge for what she called the very difficult cases. And it was all about people who were allegedly incompetent, but these were people that were like shut-ins and locked in, and they wouldn't let anyone in to see what was happening, whether it was the family members or even social services. And she would call me. She kind of always said, "This one's for you." I'm like, "All right, it's probably a difficult one." And she's like, how did you get them to open the door? And I'm like, I just sat down and like listened. I let them tell their whole story. I just listened. And then they're like, you're still there? I'm like, yeah, I'm just sitting on the floor waiting till you let me in. But others were just like, you have to let me in, and it just showed the emphasis on the people want to be heard. And I showed that I was listening. I wasn't just waiting for them to talk so that I could talk. It was, I let them do all the talking.
You said that the male female listening was a generality. Everything that I have read, everything says that women are more perceptive when it comes down to reading nonverbal communications. It's just because they have to be. It's as simple as that. They have to be. If they want to make the best choice in a mate, they've got to get that kind of information.
Yeah.
And they can't ask the man, well, are you the best choice for me? Because he's going to lie and say yes. And it's like, and she could make a bad mistake and end up with a bad husband. So she's got to, listen. She's got to test and find out that he is what he said he is as advertised. And I've read just so many different books, podcasts, videos, and everyone is consistent on that. Women are just able to perceive information better than men when it comes down to nonverbal communication because they have to.
Yeah, I'm with you, Vern. I've read the same, and it is partially mate selection, but it's also partially survival instincts when you look at our biology and what used to happen and how you had to protect yourself. If you're walking through the woods, you need to be able to understand what that sound over there is. Is it an animal? Is it a large animal? Is it a small animal? You need to be able to observe, someone else's body language to see if they're going to attack, because you may need to take some sort of defensive posture. But yeah, I've read the same thing, and it, in my personal experience, it seems to be true as well. But you know what? So there's another thing that intrigued me about this book. So in one part in it, he talks about create the illusion of control. Was that the title of the chapter, or did he say it in there? I can't remember now. But anyway, he talked about creating the illusion of control, and that just really fascinated me because it's borderline manipulation, and it's almost like one of those superpowers like the Force in Star Wars, right? Use the right way and it's really, really good, but use the bad way, you're on the dark side. Because it was all about making the other party feel like they were in control. Because if they feel like they're in control, now you've got them emotionally listening to you, and you're really controlling the situation by making them think they're in control.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, negotiation is, I mean, we use the word manipulation and it has a negative connotation. But at the end of the day, negotiation is about manipulation, because you have to, even in a well-meaning way, you have to manipulate the conversation in such a way to protect your interests and hopefully get what you want. And that, maybe there's a better word, but that is still manipulation.
Influence.
I'll go with influence.
That works.
I'll go with that. Yeah,
I'm going to influence you into seeing things my way.
Yes. You're getting sleepy.
That's what I was thinking.
I do that to my dog.
Now, Rob, cluck like a chicken. No.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, though, when you look at it, it's manipulation on both sides, whether you're the hostage negotiator or whether you're the people who are holding the people hostage, because they're not going to be straight up about what's going on. They've got an agenda, and they know that they cannot be forthright in terms of what their agenda is. So, he talked about them lying about what they really wanted, who was actually in control, that kind of information. So it's like a chess match. I'm going to manipulate you, or I'm going to influence you, and you're going to try and influence me. Now we're going to see who is the better influencer.
Yeah, I mean, you take it out of hostage situations. The example that always comes to mind for me is, going to a car dealership and buying a car. You call it influence, call it manipulation, call it whatever you want. What you walked there to do and what the person sitting across the table that wants to make a sale wants to do start out in completely different places. And
then isn't that how? Sorry.
No, go ahead, Leslie.
Oh no, I was going to say, isn't that like where we categorize like the negotiating the car, where the likelihood of me dealing with that same car salesperson is unlikely that I'll deal with them again. If I am going to deal with them again, maybe I'm going to negotiate differently. So the ongoing relationships and the non-ongoing relationships, it creates like two categories. Or then when life is threatened, like in a hostage situation, I mean, maybe at the base, we're still talking about listening, making sure with empathy. But in the end, we are holding things to ourselves. Like if I'm in an ongoing relationship with someone in the workplace, I may have a level of trust where, you know what, I'm going to reveal it all because this is what's going to finally get us to a point of figuring out how to talk to each other, how to communicate, how to live with each other. But if I'm dealing with the, the hostage situation or even the car salesman, I'm not going to reveal all. I don't have the trust to
Yeah.
reveal it all. So I think it changes, but the same factors are still at play.
Right. But here's a view on that, because I agree with what you're saying. If a car dealership example, most car salesmen and most buyers walk into that relationship, air quotes, relationship, as transactional. I'll never deal with this person again. I'll never see this customer again. If you both approach the relationship like might have been done 15, 20 years ago, as I want to trust this individual because if I have any issues with the car, I'm going to trust that they're going to take care of me. And the car salesman is, I hope they're going to refer me to their friends and family and tell the world about, the great deal they got from me. And we built a relationship. So part of the problem is a lot of the day-to-day negotiations we do, one or both parties are approaching it as transactional. I'll never deal with this person ever again, and I really don't care. I need to extract what I want out of this, not what's fair. And so I don't know, then the more you approach it that way, the more you be ruthless about the tactics you employ, because empathy, to the point way back from empathy becomes irrelevant.
Actually, the car dealer is an excellent example because A, you want to pay as little as possible. B, they want as much money from you as possible. So when you walk in that door and you start looking around, they come, can I help you? And oftentimes the first response is, just looking. Now, you've come in there to buy a car. So already you started lying. I'm looking, I'm thinking maybe, but you're in there to buy. So they want to sell, but they want you to pay the most that you can because that's how they make more money. They're not trying to cheat themselves out of money, just because you're a nice person. They want to part you from your money as much money as possible. Now, you want to pay as little money as possible. Now that we've got our cards on the table, where do we go from here? And, back and forth on terms and options and things like that. But the example is, you're negotiating. And I think that's probably about one of the best examples that you can come up with when you go in to buy a car.
I don't know, Vern. I'll have to go talk to my sales manager.
Boy, I tell you, they're not going to like me. You're driving a hard bargain. I don't know if I can do that or not. Let me talk to my sales manager, but I don't know. And
how am I gonna do that? I can hear Vern saying it now.
Does anyone here like going to buy a car?
No, it's horrible.
It is.
It's not something I look forward to.
And they know that.
Yeah. And they have the upper hand because they're trained on how to ask questions and get responses and which way they want the negotiation to go in.
Yes.
Oh, I thought they were just trained on annoying us to death until we finally were mentally exhausted enough to say yes.
That is a strategical tactic, I have to tell you.
I bought my last car online, so it was during the pandemic, so it was a way better experience for me.
Yes. And my last experience, it was me buying the car, but it was at the like somewhere in COVID. but we were able to go into the car dealer at that time. And my husband came along because I needed in case we were switching cars or whatever. But the guy kept on talking to him. So you know
Uh-oh.
when this happens.
Oh man.
And my
Strike
husband just
two.
looked at the guy and said, "You really are negotiating with the wrong person. And if you piss her off more, we're really walking out because we don't need a new car today."
Yeah,
And it's her car.
yeah.
Um,
The last
That was a
last car
fatal
we
error
bought
on his
was-
part.
and he was desperate for a sale because it was July 31st. Now I'm remembering. It was
Ah,
July
okay.
31st.
Yep.
I knew that. And they had no sales because they hadn't been open. Like we were that first week of that they were letting people into the place. So it worked in our favor.
You
It
had a
wasn't
lot
even
of
all
leverage in that
pre-planned.
situation for sure. Yeah, the last one we bought was for my wife. And after we went to various dealerships, seriously just looking because she didn't really have any idea what she fully wanted. Then when and so when I went along, because she had focused on what she wanted on the drive there, I said, I want to be absolutely certain. I am the designated asshole here, right? You're gonna make nice. I know you. You'll make nice, and that's wonderful. But when I start playing designated asshole, let me do it. Because if not, I'll wait in the car and you go do the transaction. And there with I did all of the that's not going to work and got up and walked out. Now my wife's still sitting there like waiting for me to come back. But
Walking out the door and forgetting to bring your wife. Oh yeah.
yeah.
I forget
Where did
something?
she
Oh, yeah.
go?
Come on, dear.
Wait a minute, she's got the keys.
But it was effective. It was dramatic.
It was well, I think in the end we got a fair deal, and we talked to the guy every once in a while, so so there was a relationship there.
Interesting. He made a tactical error though with Leslie. If he was talking, making that assumption without asking, now
Yes.
who's the car for? Is the car for you? And that's an honest question. And it would have saved him from making that tactical error of just talking to your husband, because if the car is for him, then fine, he can kind of, but again, since you're there, it would be stupid of him to act like you're not there, because so
And
often
he-
women make the buying
It
decisions.
was only
in the
me
home.
talking. My husband was like reading a book or something. And he really thought we were playing. He made a mistake. I really was the one buying the car.
Yeah.
He thought we were just, like same old, very stereotypical. We're going to play the game. I'll be the talker. He'll come in and say no. He's like, I have no idea what's in that bank account. I don't know what she can afford.
Would this book be useful for someone that was going out to buy a car?
Yes.
I would think so. I think that you can't just read a book and then start using it, because in a situation like that, they're so well trained on wearing down your limited defenses, so you really have to kind of prepare. I don't think you just read a book and say, okay, now I'm fully, armed to go, because, they've got too much practice and negotiating skill on their side of the table. But
Yeah.
getting in your head a few tactics that you don't let situation disrupt you from those tactics will be better than most people go into those types of situations.
And I think like getting rid of the stereotypical that the way you're going to get what you want is to be forceful. And that's where the empathy and the listening come in. I mean, the car dealer thing, I deal with that different than for sure with the ongoing relationship. But so many people think it's all about being forceful. Like I said earlier, that, you hold the real information confidential because you don't want to share it. And one of my best deals, and this did really, we had a forced long ongoing relationship. It was like me as the corporate tenant and a landlord. So we knew we were going to be, quote, living together for like 15 or 20 years. So that definitely created an interest for us both, not to just be like, you know what, this is what I want, that's it, done. It was going to be ongoing. But there was still, it wasn't my money, it was my company's money. And the same thing with the person I was negotiating with. It wasn't his company that owned the property, he was just working for them. It took, we just weren't there. And like, finally, we just both looked at each other. I go, you know what? Come on. Like, what do you really want to happen? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I go, you know what? I'm going to start. I want my CEO to think this is the best deal I've ever done. That's what I want. I don't know what it's going to look like in the numbers. I'll tell you some things that he's going to notice. He's not going to notice these 18 terms, what we decide on, but he's going to notice the dollars per square foot. That's the overall number he wants to know. What am I paying every month? And then he came out and said like what his personal interests were. And it completely changed the dynamics and just helped us to work through like how to get us both there so that we both go, wow, this is great for all of us. I'm like, yeah, I think it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You were both
I
there, but representing, people that you got to report to.
Yes.
And so, I this is what I want to go back to my boss with. And he says, well, this is what I want to go back to my boss with. Well, what do you think you're back and forth. It's not me.
Exactly.
It's my boss, and so that's how you negotiated is. So that changed the perspective of the negotiation, which I think was obviously good.
But we still both said the I part, like, you know what? I want to look good. And so did he. And we're lucky, like with a big real estate landlord tenant relationship, there's a lot of room to negotiate because there's so many terms in there. So we had a lot to work with. And both of us understood it wasn't just the surface numbers. It's like the deeper numbers that matter. Like, how much are you going to charge me for overtime air conditioning? How much of the taxes are you passing on to me? How much are you going to escalate all the time? Because our bosses were looking at the surface numbers. So we had room to play and go, you know what, you got to emphasize this and this. But we both were able to admit, like, you know what, I have a personal stake here, not money. I just want to look good. And so do you. So let's figure out how to look good together. So we were like in it together.
Interesting. Okay.
So totally
I still know the person 20 years later, so it worked.
Yeah.
So totally different scenario, but I did use one of the tactics in the book to great success, and it is the tactic of asking a no question. So here's the scenario. I'm going to generalize it so that nobody can, figure out exactly who the parties are, but other than me. But I've got a client that I've been working with for quite some time, and they are very non-responsive to emails. If they don't want to respond, it can go days, weeks, just no response. Very slow in paying. I send reminders, add on late fees. It's just the nagging factor on my end is, annoying. I want to continue to do business with them, but the annoyance factor is over the top. And so I just sent an email after having read part of the book, and I just asked the question in the email, other than the bookend with some niceties, do you not want to continue doing business with me anymore? ? Got a response in 15 minutes. No. What's wrong? Well, let's set up a call and let's talk about it. And we were talking, but otherwise I was dancing through hoops, and just asking that no question.
It's priceless.
It was.
It was.
It's a data
priceless.
point that it works.
Yeah, it is absolutely priceless. Do you want to continue working together? And just, and that's it.
You want to phrase it in such a way where the answer is no. Do you not want to continue working together? So they can say no.
Yeah.
Then you putting them on the defensive in essence.
Also, is it that we're asking a question that they're not used to hearing, so it catches their attention finally? Like, reply to my payment request is to, oh, all right, well, let me go through all these and skip over. Wait. Oh, he thinks I don't want to work with him anymore. No.
Yeah.
If we surprise people with something that's unexpected, all of a sudden their ears perk up.
Oh, yeah. It's the shock value.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, wait, no, that's not what I meant. I that wasn't my intention. I don't know. You tell me. I mean, that's what it's come down to. And that's when it's like throwing cold water in their face to wake them up to, now let's continue on now that you're paying attention.
And so many people seek to get the yeses, which I guess is the point that the excerpt that I was reading, that's why it's better to ask the questions that will seek the no, because the yes is a little bit empty. They're just like, yeah, okay. Are you going to stop bothering me now? Like, and now we'll go on to something else. And then the yes, they really aren't satisfied with what they agreed to.
What is he said? The yes without a how is meaningless. Carries no weight at all.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do this? Interesting.
We have someone watching from YouTube today.
Yay.
That's Teresa.
Yeah. But it doesn't show on our LinkedIn, like you can't respond to the YouTube on the LinkedIn, I just realized.
Oh, that's too bad.
Wait, so now we have a whole bunch of you. You're ready to give up your cars, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like it. It's like for me, I live kind of like on the belt line, on the outskirts of downtown, so I don't really need a car unless I'm going to see family or friends.
Interesting. I think what also changes things is that we have access now to so much more information, and business relationships have evolved in a certain way now because of what I can sit up there. I want to find out what the value of that car is. I can go online and I can find exactly what the value of the car is. That kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I've done the math and what happened to Vern?
No, what happened to Vern?
Yeah. I've done the math and it feels like I would pay less in Uber than I would for insurance and maintenance and parking.
I know people who have done just that. They've sold their cars and they only use Uber to get around, and for those exact same reasons. Save on gas, insurance, wear and tear, all of that.
It's all priorities. I've done that equation, and it clearly costs me much more to keep a car in New York City than all of that. I mean, I've figured that out for 25 years. On paper, it always showed don't buy the car. And of course, a car is so, I get to leave when I want to leave. I don't have to worry about the train. And I do leave the city a lot, so that's why it's convenient. But it's more about what the car means, and I'm not picky about what car. Just give me a car with 4 wheels, and I'm fine. I don't care what type of car. I don't even care what color it is. I just love, like, I guess it's the freedom of a car.
Yeah.
That I can just
It's
get in it
liberating.
anytime I
difference.
want.
There's a lime green Yugo, I think, that's still available. If you
Oh, hey, if I can get a better deal than the one I have, I'll take it. As
Oh,
long as I
Yugo
don't,
is not a
as
better
long
deal
as it's
for
not too
anyone.
big, because they charge me extra in the garage if it's like bigger than small.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting,
so
Leslie, because
true.
how you see a car in New York and how we see a car in Los Angeles, totally different.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
very
Totally
different.
different. You
well, a
know,
car in Los Angeles is just something you park on the freeway because you're not going to move anyway.
you gotta have it. You gotta have it.
So true.
So yeah, it is about, the information that we have, that convenience. If at 1 o'clock in the morning I want to go and get, something to eat, I don't have to call and wait for Uber to come and get me. Get in my car and go wherever I want to go.
Or you just have it delivered through Uber Eats nowadays, right?
That's true.
Point. If I don't want to go anyplace, you're right, Rob. I can call Uber Eats and they can bring me anything I want. Sushi, hamburger, whatever you want. All you got to do is let your fingers do the walking. So,
Yeah,
but
And
things are
your
different now.
wallet do the paying.
very true. I think what's amazing though is they'll even outside of Uber Eats, many of the grocery stores will deliver your groceries to you for just a small fee to where it's probably actually worth it. I've had groceries delivered before, and I think the fee is like $5. $5 to deliver. I don't have to shop. I don't have to go through the
Time.
store. $5 is I'm
It's
good
worth
with
the
that.
money.
I can stay right here, and all I got to do is go to the door to answer the door and get my food. I
Yeah.
don't have to go up and down the aisle, end up buying stuff and seeing stuff that I really don't need or want.
Right. Right.
It's such a hassle. You have to put pants on to answer the door. I mean,
There you are. It's always something.
But
Gotta
you
wear
don't
pants to go
necessarily
shopping in the store. If I was at home, I could do this in my underwear. Well, you're not at home, right?
That's what I was about to say, but you don't necessarily have to put pants on to attend book club, I guess, right?
No, you do not. I don't want anybody to prove it, but no, you don't. You're absolutely correct.
I'll stand up shortly after the telecast is over.
That's another drawing feature, I guess. You don't even have to wear pants to book club.
Nope.
You don't need to read the book or wear your pants.
Put that in the
Good
caption.
point. Yeah, that's probably a very strong and compelling reason to come to book club. You don't have to wear pants, and you don't have to read the book.
Although,
Best book club ever.
Fortunately, I'm getting both wrong.
oh my goodness. Okay, well, we still have one more session for
So the next session, Benita, the one thing, if you get to it, listening to it or reading it or have read it, he brings up the concept of black swans. And I agree with his definition. And then I completely disagree with where he takes it. It's inconsistent with my definition of what a black swan is. So
like the fact that he named his consulting company Black Swan.
So I mean, it might just be, we don't need to talk about it, but I thought it was interesting. I was tracking with him, and then when he started using it in his examples, I said those aren't black swans because those are predictable, but we can talk about that.
Okay, so the next book club is in 2 weeks, August 24th, the day after my birthday.
Make a mental note. That would be August 23rd. Okay. You can start saving for your gift. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Vern, you're one step ahead of me. I was just thinking, remember to tell Benita a happy belated birthday on the book.
how do you all sing?
As long as we don't have to put on pants, we're good. Maybe
We'll
we
go
should
to the
all
grocery
stand
store to
up
buy
and
a
sing.
cake.
Let's see how that goes.
All right, there you
Pants
have
optional.
it. There you have it. It's pants are optional. Reading the book is optional. Come to Virtual Book Club. That's where you're going to have the most fun on LinkedIn and maybe learn something.
Walk away with a gem.
On the 24th.
Bye.